Welcome to the 52nd edition of Spooky Reviews from Spooky Ventures. Actually, maybe I should have started this with a hearty ho-ho horror, since it's a continuation of our Put the Spooky Back into Christmas coverage for the year. This time around, I'm reviewing a new DVD from SRS that features two films, Psycho Santa and Psycho Santa 2, both on one disc. The first movie was released in 2003. It is set up in more or less in an anthology style, with the husband in the film telling the wife all the short stories contained in the movie. Now, all the tales do center around a psychotic person who dresses up and kills people, and it's the same person in all those stories. Now, hence that's the title of the movie, is Psycho Santa. I like the fact that they chose an anthology format because that's such a well-established form in horror film history. Some of the stories work fairly well, too. That said, there was one with two women in a cabin that seems as if the filmmakers couldn't decide if they were shooting a horror movie or a softcore porn film for a while. It includes a lot of gratuitous nudity. A later segment also has some of that, but not nearly to the level of that one section. Another complaint is that the section centered around two guys breaking into a home runs tediously slow at times. I kept thinking he said that they thought the house was currently empty, with the residents away. Why would they go so slowly and try so hard to be quiet if they thought that it was actually empty? Just didn't make a lot of sense to me, and it was really too slow for film time. Now, that brings up another point that doesn't work as well here. I kept wondering if there was some reason that would be revealed in a twist at the end to explain why the husband knew so much about the details of what had happened in all these stories, all these particular incidents. Yet that twist never came, and I think it was sort of a lost opportunity. Comparisons to Silent Night, Deadly Night are obvious. I think you should try to avoid those if you can, though, because this will feel like a very weak attempt if it goes head-to-head with that classic. The story here is less relatable and believable, and the Santa character is not nearly as interesting. This also moves much more slowly than that film did. Now, this one is not without its charms, though. There are some particularly funny and intentionally so lines sprinkled throughout. The kills are at times imaginative. I also love the little Achilles heel they built into the victim. Or the villain, I'm sorry. I had high hopes that the sequel would be better. It was done 18 years later in 2021. I think the actual craft of filmmaking and the technical side is improved. That said, the older look was almost the charm of the first one, so I'm not sure that's actually an improvement. The sequel's story is quite a bit more complex than that of the first film. I'd say that at points it's a bit confusing. Part of that comes from the fact that two of the main characters look too similar, and I found myself having to figure out which one was which quite a few times. They changed some of the facts and the basic history from the first film too. That's not uncommon in slashers, though, so it's one of those things you sort of roll with, really. I mean, look at the changes from the first Friday the 13th to the second one. One aspect that I really liked about both movies, but particularly the second, is the use of music. They often juxtapose Christmas classics that, partly due to our experiences around those pieces of music, seem to exude innocent fun with violent, gory imagery that really runs completely contrary to it. Now, the second film doesn't wander into softcore porn territory like the first one did. It does have some pretty explicit drug use, though. It's blatant enough that I'd say they should have a trigger warning for it, really. Another problem that dogs both movies, but more the second than the first, is that the characters don't act like one would expect when confronted by the killer. I mean, I'm not sure if they were intentionally trying to avoid the screaming horror movie character cliche, or what, but these people don't scream at all, and they just sort of back up slowly. Um, I've been in enough close calls myself to know that I would do what most of would do, what would not do what most of these people do. I mean, I do the part where they back up or they try to fight, but they do so almost silently. I'd definitely be fighting, but there would be so many obscenities screamed by me that you'd hear me in the next movie over. I think that's a more realistic response. All in all, I think both of these movies have some definite charms. Getting them both on one disc is very cool. The only bonus features here are the trailers for the two movies. Then again, you get two movies. My advice is don't go in expecting these films to rival Silent Night, Deadly Night. Just sit back and let the holiday violence wash over you, and you'll likely have a good time. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.